So I don't know about y'all, but Chucky has always been one of the scariest slasher icons to me. When I was a kid, I had a bad habit of sneaking out of my bed at night and watching TV when I was supposed to be asleep, and I would always end up watching something scary. I would watch all the classic horror movies like Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Willy Wonka, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, just all of those. But nothing would scare me more than Chucky. So playing Dead by Daylight and having all these iconic killers that have given me nightmares for years, it's always been a bit saddening how Chucky is missing from the roster. The developers, understandably, have talked about how Chucky would be difficult due to his size, but I believe with the new killer, the twins, and how Victor plays and how small the camera angle is for him, that now is the time to add Chucky to Dead by Daylight. So let's go over a design pitch for the doll. So to address the elephant in the room, obviously Chucky would have a lower camera than any other killer in the game, and I'd probably put him as one of the slower killers as well at 4.4 meters per second, and that would put him at the same speed as other characters like the Hag or the Plague. For him going over vaults, you can just have Chucky kind of jump and clamber over them. Pallets, he can just destroy them by smacking with his hand since the entity makes the killers super strong anyways, so Chucky should just be able to destroy the pallets. Chucky's ability would have the game spawn with 5 Chucky dolls around the map, all of them in the sitting position. Chucky has the ability to transfer his soul to another Chucky doll around the map, kind of like the Demogorgon going through portals or Freddy's teleporting to one of the generators. The doll that Chucky teleports to stands up, and the player is now in control of that doll, and the doll that Chucky was previously in control of will now be put in the sitting position. Chucky will also have another ability that will allow him to crouch, similar to Ghostface and the Pig. But instead of being able to move, Chucky goes into the sitting position just like the other inactive dolls around the map. While he is sitting, Chucky gains the undetectable status effect, so survivors can't tell if it's the real one, and while he is sitting, he also has the ability to lunge, akin to Victor, where if he successfully hits a survivor, if they are injured, they simply go down, but if they are at full health, Chucky will latch onto them, where the survivor and Chucky both have skill checks appearing, where Chucky has to hit them to stay on, and the survivor has to hit them to try to throw Chucky off. The skill checks will increase in difficulty until one person messes up. If the survivor messes up, they now go into the down state. If Chucky messes up, the survivor goes into the injured state, so they still get hurt, but Chucky gets shaken off and stunned, kind of like being hit with the decisive strike ability and allow the survivor to try and run away. So that's the idea that I have for Chucky's ability. Now his teachables would be playtime's over, hidey ho, and batteries not included. With playtime's over, you're obsessed with a survivor. While your obsession is hooked, your red stain goes away, and your terror radius decreases by 12, 16, and 20%. Hidey ho, when a survivor gets unhooked, gain undetectable for 6, 9, or 12 seconds, and see the aura of the survivor who performed the unhooking for 4 seconds. And finally, with batteries not included, when a generator is completed, get a noise notification on all other generators being repaired by survivors. Those survivors are also inflicted with the exhausted status effect for 15, 20, and 25 seconds. So Playtime's Over is like a stealth-based version of Dead Man's Switch. Chucky's abilities and playstyle would be more focused on stealth, with the ability to teleport around the map and also being able to sit and be undetected. So I felt like it would make sense to have his perks kind of resemble that. Now this perk might be a bit strong, removing both the red stain and reducing the terror radius, but this perk would only be active while the obsession is hooked. And I had the same idea with designing Hidey Ho, kind of acting like a reverse babysitter perk. This would allow the killer to make his way undetected back to the hook, and he's also got a few seconds to see where the survivor who unhooked what they're up to. I was also thinking of the name Hide the Soul because the killer is being hidden for a few seconds, and that's another thing that Chucky says, but I mean...
Hi, I'm Tommy, and I'm your friend to the end. Hidey ho, ha ha ha.
I don't know, I'm just kind of spitballing ideas here. And so finally, with batteries not included, if a generator finishes and the killer gets a notification of other gens currently being worked on, the killer has an option of going to one of those gens or after one that was just finished. The fact that the survivors are also being affected with exhausted for a few seconds might also pull them off of the generators, because if the killer does make his way over there and the exhaustion stops them from being able to use balanced landing or lithe or whatever, the survivor isn't going to have a good time. So they might have to get off the gen to go hide for a little bit and allow the exhaustion to time out, allowing the killer to have time to go to the gen and investigate the area. And of course, with any of the perks, the numbers can be tweaked or changed around a bit. These are just kind of ideas that I'm tossing out here. And the last bit of design for Chucky is Chucky's Mori. Chucky jumping onto characters is a bit of a staple of his, so his Mori could involve him jumping onto a survivor, causing them to lose balance and fall, where Chucky then repeatedly stabs them in the chest with his knife while doing that laugh that he does sometimes.
What are you, fucking nuts?
Yeah, that one. The survivor coming with Chucky would, of course, be Andy. Now, obviously, we can't really have the child version of him, because having a kid in this game, that's just, you know, that's just not a good idea. So, we could use the adult version of him from Cult of Chucky. It's still the same actor, so that works. Cult of Chucky is also where I got the idea of transferring his soul around to different dolls as his power, but let's not talk about that part of the movie, it got kind of weird. Now, Andy would be coming in with his own unique Teachables. Andy seemed like the kind of person who does what he can to help those that Chucky is tormenting. We saw him do that while he was in boot camp in Child's Play 3, we saw him put himself in the asylum in Cult to try to stop Chucky. He seems like the kind of guy who puts himself in danger to help others, and I wanted his perks to reflect that. And from that, we got Not It, Blind Man's Bluff, and No More Games. So Not It, after stunning the killer, gain 150% movement speed for 3 seconds. Cause the exhausted status effect for 60, 50, and 40 seconds. Not It cannot be used when exhausted. Blind Man's Bluff. After successfully unhooking a survivor, gain a token up to 2, 3, or 4. Any time that you would have alerted the killer with a loud noise notification, use a token instead and negate the alert, and leave no scratch marks for 6 seconds. And finally, No More Games. After taking a protection hit, gain a token up to 2, 3, or 4. For each token, lower status effect timer's duration by 5%. Inspired by Balanced Landing and Lithe, Not It would allow someone who's being chased by the killer to fully escape if they stun them. Under the idea that Andy is someone who puts himself in danger and confronts the killer, I would imagine that he would be someone that ends up getting chased quite often, so giving him an escape perk just kinda fit. That is also the idea behind Blind Man's Bluff. Andy puts himself in danger by going to survivors, and is rewarded with a get out of jail free card for a notification that would have alerted the killer. Kind of like Distortion, but focusing on loud noise notifications rather than aura. And also, instead of starting the match with the tokens, you earn them by saving survivors off of hooks. A bit more of a risk-reward idea. Also, Distortion maxes out at 3 tokens, while Blind Man's Bluff theoretically would allow up to 6 if you're the last survivor and you unhooked everyone else in the game. And then, to wrap up Andy's perks, No More Games would reward you for taking protection hits by shortening any status effect timer that gets put on your character. Another thing of Andy putting himself in harm's way to help someone. This perk could be used in tandem with Not It or other exhaustion perks to speed up the status effect timer. It could also be used to combat other killers like Ghostface's exposed ability. And finally, you gotta bring a map with you. Myers brought Haddonfield, Freddy brought Bradham School, so Chucky would be bringing with him the Good Guy Factory. An indoor map, kind of like Hawkins, it would be run down and a broken factory. It could have unique areas like an assembly line, or an attached warehouse or store, kind of like what we even see in Ghostface's trailer. We have seen in multiple Chucky movies the location of a Good Guy Factory or a toy store or something like that, so Chucky bringing in a map of that kind just kind of fits. And then to wrap up the entire pitch would be the legendary skins for the characters. Tiffany would be the obvious choice for Chucky, and then for Andy we could have Kyle. There was an after credit scene of Cult of Chucky where we see Kyle as an adult, or it could be her character from Child's Play 2 if you want to really go old school. So that is it for my pitch of Chucky in Dead by Daylight. He is one of the few remaining iconic horror killers that this game is missing, and I would love if behavior adds him to the game. If you enjoyed this pitch and you want to hear me talk about other game design ideas or pitches, maybe click the subscribe button and like the video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments.